Okay, hey everybody, in this tutorial we are going to learn how to make the game Fruit Ninja here on Scratch. And this will teach us how to use our webcam to impact the different sprites as it will take a picture of us and we will try to hit the fruits and hopefully not the bombs. And if we do that, they will swipe away and add to our score. It will also teach us how to manage a fairly complex game as there's a lot of different commands that we have to put into this that really goes beyond what we've done before. So we'll work on that, and when we are done, you will have a game that looks like this. And you can see me, and if you swipe at it, it will go. You don't want to hit the bomb. You do want to hit that. And as you can see up there, it keeps score. Oh, and I'll just hit that, boom, and when you do that, the game is over. Okay, but that is what we will make, so let's get started here. I'm gonna go to create. And I am going to name it Fruit Ninja, as always. Want to make sure I title my game so that I don't get a lot of untitles, and I'm going to get rid of Scratchy. And the first thing that I'm going to do is, actually, let's go over here. So this is kind of a complex game, and if you just try to randomly go at it and try to do everything all at once, it can get a little bit complicated. So what you want to do is kind of write out everything that you are going to do, and then after you have written it in a very simple language, you can go back into Scratch, something a bit more abstract, and that will really help you kind of structure and make sure you're not just throwing darts in the dark and hoping things work. And whenever you could do it from sort of the really concrete stuff you know into the more abstract, it is a better way of doing something. So that is what I have set up here. And when you are trying to make your own game, something that you have never done before and something that you are really pushing yourself for, it's really helpful if you write out this little pseudocode right here. So let's take a look at this. So the first thing I have here, the first thing that we're going to do is that if the space bar is clicked, then we are going to start the game. That's fairly simple. I just have the instructions, and then I want to press the space bar and it will start the game. Once that starts, we basically have a loop that goes on until the game ends. So it's going to pick a random fruit. Okay, we don't know if it's going to be the watermelon or the apple or if it's going to be the bomb. And then is going to launch that random fruit. It is going to go from a random spot in a random direction to a random height. Now, how we are going to actually do that is kind of the challenge of programming this game. And if it is swiped with our hand, so if the motion that's detected is greater than a certain amount, it is going to cut the fruit with that little animation, making it go apart, and it's going to add one to our score. And sometimes instead of that random fruit, it's going to be a bomb that gets launched. If that is the case, if it is swiped, the bomb is going to say boom, and it is going to broadcast the end of the game sequence. Finally, at the end of our loop, when it gets back to the edge, we want it to hide, and we want to go all the way back up here, and we want to start that whole process again until that bomb is swiped. So I'll be coming back here to kind of reference it, and it will help us make our game. So the first thing that we are going to do is if the spacebar is clicked, we are going to start the game. And if you saw before, I had the Fruit Ninja background. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to type Fruit Ninja background into Google, and I'm going to go to images, and all of these look pretty good. This one is good, and you can see down here it is 1280 by 800. If you look at that right there, that's 1280 pixels by 800 pixels, and that is a nice quality. You don't want something that's like 140 by 120 or something, because then it will look very blurry. So I'm just going to go there, and I'm going to right click. I'm going to save the image onto my desktop. Fruit Ninja background. Let's close out there. And now I'm just going to upload that background here. My desktop. Fruit Ninja background, and we are all set. Oh, it's a little off, so I need to convert this into vector. And that should, is that gonna work? No, how do we do this? Oh, there we go. Ah, okay. I just want to make this a little bigger so that covers everything. Even bigger still. Just got to toy around with it. We will get this. And how does that look? Perfect. Let's press enter and go off scripts. Okay, so now we have our backgrounds. So we are going to get our instructions here. I'm just going to paint a new sprite, and I'm going to go to text. And what marker is the one that I had, and I think green one will work. Let's see. Yeah, that should be good. And I'm just going to click it right in the middle there. And I'm going to do two of them. I'm going to do one for the title, because for some reason you can't control the size of the text just by like a number like you can in most things. You have to make it bigger. So I have my title. I'm just going to click off that, and I'm just going to make this bigger. Oops. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, let's go, man. Let's just make it bigger like this. Can you make that bigger? All right, we just got to do this the old-fashioned way. Error. Wow, this takes a lot of precision here. Okay, that's good enough. All right, Fruit Ninja, and I'm just going to drag it up here. And I'm just going to make another set instruction. So same font, but it's just gonna be a little smaller. Press the space bar. To get started. Swipe at the fruit, but avoid the bombs. And exclamation points. There we go. Perfect. Got the size right that time. Just, there we go. And move that into there. And all we are going to do is that in the scripts, when the green flag is clicked, we want to show. And we can just drag that into there, and now that will also be there. And once the game starts, we want these messages to hide, so we are going to have a broadcast message here. New message. And it is going to be called start, because it's going to start the game. And just if the space bar is pressed, it's going to broadcast start. We want to wrap that in a forever loop. And boom. And when I receive start, we are going to hide it. I just need to drag that into there. Check that it's there. Make it a little cleaner. If you right click on this and press cleanup, it kind of organizes everything. It's kind of a really underrated tool that I find helpful and use quite a bit. And let's just test this out. It's really important when you're making these kind of things to really test out your programs as you're going and not try like 70 different things and then try them all at once and trying to diagnose the 10 different problems that you have. Just doing one thing at a time, and then if that thing doesn't work, then you could fix your problem is the much better way to go. So try this. And I'm gonna press the space bar and they go away, and I click that and they're there. Perfect. Now we are going to get our new sprite here, and we're just going to do a lot of the commands for one of the fruits, and then we will duplicate that fruit and it will copy the commands into all of those. So let's take a look at what we have here. first thing we want to do is pick a random fruit. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of different variables and different commands that don't necessarily apply to one sprite over the other. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to make a new sprite, and I am going to call this variables. And there'll be more stuff than just the variables, but let's do it like that. And there's actually going to be nothing in the sprite. This is just going to be different commands that I can't really think of any other place to put them, so I put them there. And while we're at it, it's a good idea just to rename all of these so that we're nice and structured and we know where everything is. That'll be instructions 2, and that will be instructions 1. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is we need to have something that when everything gets going, it does something randomly. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to make a variable, and this variable will be called, what's a good name for this? Let's do launch pick. And when the game starts, so everything is going to be based off that start broadcast message. When I receive it, we are going to set launch pick to a random number. And this is going to depend on how many fruits we end up having, but if there's 11 different sprites, maybe 8 fruit and 3 bombs, we pick 1 to 11. And if number 1 is chosen, then that fruit will go. If number 6 is chosen, that will go. Let's say number 9 is a bomb and number 9 gets chosen. The bomb will go because it was a random number. However, for now, since we are just doing one of them, it's just going to be 1 to 1. So every single time, no matter what we do, if you look here, so if I drag this off here, and do 10, if I set this, it's going to be, if you look up here, 3, 5, 6, 7, blah, blah, blah. But we're just going to do it once so that every single time it will be 1 so that we can practice with our first sprite right here. So I'm going to get a new sprite, and fortunately we have a lot of different fruit. I actually didn't need to export anything. So first thing that we're going to do is get this apple, and this will be our one sprite that we kind of command everything with. So the first thing that we want to do is we want it to hide when the directions show. So we don't want that at all. And when that is there, we just want to hide. And now that we have that, we are going to go back in here to variables. And so it's when I receive the start from pressing the space bar, it is going to pick the launch pick, but then we need to have another thing to happen once it gets the launch pick. So I'm just going to wait 0.1 seconds here just to give it a little bit of time, and then I'm going to get a new event that will tell something to launch. So I'm going to broadcast. I'm going to call this one launch. And so each time it will go back, pick a random one, and then we will broadcast launch. So let's go back to our apple. And when I receive launch, and let's go back to our pseudocode right here. We need to pick a random fruit, and we need to launch that random fruit from a random spot in a random direction to a random height. So we're going to take care of all of that right now. The first thing that we need to have here is we need to have an if statement where we want to make sure that this is only happening to this sprite if that number is chosen. So if our launch pick, this will be number 1. If that equals this, then all of these commands will happen. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to go to a random spot down here. So I'm going to go over to my motion over here, and I want it to go all the way down as far as possible. And I am going to drag this out here, and I'm going to make it go a little bit lower, so let's have minus 210. And then it's going to pick a random number between negative 240 and positive 240. So it will go down here and it will pick one random spot and just go back and forth. So let's just bring this up a little bit, negative 110, to check that it works. So I'm going to click this, all this should go away, and then when I press the space bar, it should go somewhere around here. Ooh. But first, we need to make it show. Let's try this one more time. There we go. I'll do it again. It should be a different spot. Nope. Gotta make sure that is correct. I had negative 240 to negative 240. So negative 240 to positive 240. There we go. That's one. It's another. Kind of the same spot. And you can see it is going to different spots. Perfect. I'm going to put this back down into 220. And now that we have it going to a random spot, we need to have it launch in different angles. But we need to be careful here because we don't want like it to be down here and then like it launches that way, because that just wouldn't work very well. So we want that if it's on this side, we want it to launch in that direction going to the upper left. And then if it's down on this side, it is going to the upper right. So we're going to have two different conditions here. We're going to go back to our if statement, and we're going to get our x position. So if our x position, if it is over here, that means it's going to be greater than 0, because right there is about halfway in between. So that is x0. So anything over here is going to be greater than 0. So if x position is greater than 0, then we want it to launch in a certain way. We're going to go over here and we want it to point in a direction. So we're going to have this move, and like before, you could have it move, changing x or changing y, but we are going to have it point in a certain direction, and then it is going to move steps until something happens. So we want this to launch at different angles, so I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to pick random, and it's going to point in a direction between 20 and 45. So it'll be between these two directions right here, and then from there it will go off. Get that right in there. And the other, so I have it going here, it's in a random spot, and now it is going to a random direction. Now the last thing I need to have it do is go to a random height. And we're gonna put a gravity effect in here in a bit, but the way that the height is going to be controlled is just going to be the speed at which it's stepping, okay, that initial velocity. So I am going to have it, I'm gonna make a new variable, and I'm gonna call this steps, so it's gonna be changing. And we are going to set steps to another random number. Again, a lot of random operators here. Between 10 and 20 steps. And again, you can experiment with all these numbers. I've done this before, and it took me a little while to come up with this. I did a lot of experimenting, and just these are the numbers that I come up with. But if you wanted to make it a quicker game or a higher game, you can go to 20 to 30 or 5 to 10. It's really up to you. And this was wrong over here. 22, 45. And now once we get this, just forever, it is just going to move in that direction. So we want to move the number of steps. So it is going to, if x position is greater than 0, it's going to point randomly between 20 and 40 degrees, which is about this angle right here. it is going to pick a speed between 10 and 20. And then forever, it is going to move between 10 and 20 steps. So if it was 20 steps, it'd be way up here. If it was 10, it would be down here. And I'm just going to, well, I want to duplicate this, so it's going to be simpler. And now if x position is less than 0, I'll put this up here. So if the x position is less than 0, meaning it's down here, I just want to do the opposite. So it's going to point in a direction between 155 and 180, which is just like that was this angle right here. 155 and 180 is between these two right here. 155 and 180. And then it is going to go between -10 and -20. Just like that. And so this is, and we keep this right here. So this is just the opposite of what we had before. And I'm going to put that right down in there. So when I receive launch, if launch pick equals 1, then we want to, something's wrong here. 0. Oh, that needs to go. Ah, there we go. Get in there, man. All right, we only want one of these, that's the problem. You don't need two forever move steps, because once we get the direction that it's going in, this will take care of all the movement. So it's if x position is greater than 0, it is going to point in that direction and then set that number of steps. It would then skip over this because it would not be less than 0, and it would move those steps. And if x position is less than 0, it's going to point in that direction, and then it's going to set the step number and then move in those steps. So let's give this a whirl. So when we do this, it should just launch it straight up there, because we haven't set any gravity to it. So we'll take care of that in a bit, but this should just go straight. There we go. Oh, it's going the wrong way here. So if x position is greater than 0, oh, so I messed that one up. We want to switch that around. If x position is less than 0, I got my angles mixed up. And let's have this one be greater than. Okay, let's try this. Boom. Boom. Let's get one from the right. There we go. Perfect. Okay. And now that we have that, let's add a little gravity here. And since gravity is kind of universal here, I am going to keep it over here. So when I receive launch, I'm going to make a new variable, and I'm going to call this y velocity. When I receive launch, I want to set y velocity to 0, and then forever, I want to change my y velocity by -0.5. And again, just these numbers are just, they come from some experimentation that I was doing before. Just hopefully you get the concept behind them, but I did not know these numbers right off the bat. I did a lot of tinkering, and you might have to do that yourself if you find something not particularly working well and you want to switch it around. That's what you should do. Okay, so we just have that, and now whenever I receive launch, so this is going to happen each time. Whenever I receive launch, it's going to set my y velocity to 0, and then if forever, it is just going to have it go down by -0.5. So that should affect how that moves. And now that I have that, I just want to go back into my Apple, and I just always want to change my y velocity when I receive launch by that. So I'm going to get my forever loop, and I want to change y by that variable that I just set right here, by y velocity. So it is going to move in this direction, but the y velocity is constantly going to be pulled on by that gravity that we just established right there. So let's see how this works. There we go. Perfect. Ooh. Great. Okay, so let's go back to here now. So we have done all of this. We have picked a random fruit. We have launched that random fruit from a random spot into a random direction to a random height, which is then pulled on by that gravity. Now we need to get into the next part of this, which is the swipe and using the webcam. So if it is swiped, we want to get the animation of the cut fruit and add 1 to the score. So in order to do that, we're going to go over here to sensing, and there's a little value block here called video motion on the spray. I'm just going to drag that off, and this little thing will come up, and you need to allow it or else it won't work. And you can see over here that the video shows up, and this will detect the amount of motion that is on the sprite. So this is a value block, which it has to be used in conjunction with one of the operators or put into something. So it will output a value between 0 and 100, where right now I'm perfectly still, it would be close to 0. But if you were moving all around, it would be a much higher number. And what we're going to have it do is that if it is greater, if the motion on that sprite is greater than a certain value, we are going to have it do something that we want it to. And the first thing that we'll have it do is we'll have it split into 2. We'll have a little bit of animation. So what I want to do is, you could also change the transparency. So say you wanted this at 100. See now I am gone. I disappeared. So actually, first thing I'm going to do is clean this up. So it always looks nice right there. And I am going to have another if statement where if video motion if that is greater than 20, then we want something to happen. And that's something that we want to happen is we want to have a little animation here. So I have my apple right there. All I'm going to do is duplicate it. And I am going to draw a little square and just do this again. There we go. Yeah, that's, oops. You just want to forget everything I just did right there. All right, I'm going to go to bitmap. I'm going to get this, and I'm just going to drag it out like that. Perfect. So we have 2 costumes. We have our first costume, and we have our second costume when the apple gets split. So if I go back to scripts, if the video motion on the sprite is greater than 20, then all I want to do is switch that costume to Apple 2. And we need to make sure that it eventually goes back to Apple 1. So we always want that to be right there. And when I receive launch, there. And so when I receive launch, it is going to switch to the normal costume. We need a forever loop around this. However, if the video motion on that sprite is greater than 20, then it's going to switch to Apple 2. So let's see how this, let's get the transparency back to 50 so we can see what's going on. See how this works. There we go, perfect. And we'll take care of that later. Yep. And you could, this is pretty sensitive right now. If we wanted to make it a little harder, we can switch it up to 30. Let's see how that works. That works pretty well too. I want to keep it on 30, yeah. Perfect. Okay, and I'm going to clean this up. Cool. And now that we have done that, this is a loop, and we want to have it go back to the start. So what I'm going to have it do is I'm going to have it wait a certain amount of time before we do anything. And what we're going to do is that it's going to wait a certain amount of time, but as you go along further in the game, it's going to wait less and less so that the game becomes more difficult. And we will set that up later, but for now, I'm just going to have when green flag clicked. We're going to make a variable, and this variable is going to be called wait time. And we are going to set wait time to 3, and that will change once we set up a timer and get everything else done, but for now we're just going to keep it constant. And I'm going to go back here, and we want to wait time, and then all I want to do is just broadcast an event. So we are going to broadcast launch again. So this will go in a loop. When I receive launch, we're switch the, actually we want to broadcast start. So we need to pick the random number again. If we did launch, it would be the same thing over and over. So when I receive launch, it is going to go all around, and if we hit it, then it is going to switch the apple. It is going to wait the wait time, and then the whole thing is going to happen again. So let's just, there we go. Yeah, so that's the problem with 30. Occasionally you can hit it, but there we go. All right, perfect. And now let's get it so that we have our score. So we're going to do the same thing when I receive launch. My computer is having a tough time handling the video and the programming here. You could hear the fan in the background. So when I receive launch, we need one more variable here, and that is going to be called score. And let me try turning off my camera here. Yeah, give the computer a little rest there. Handling the video could be a little bit of work. All right, when I receive launch, we're going to have the same thing as before, where if our video motion on the sprite is greater than 30, I'm just going to duplicate this and take out the insides of this. It's going to have to be wrapped in a forever loop. We want to change score by 1, and we want to wait a second. So that it doesn't, like, you don't hit it once and then it goes up a million times. So let's try this out. Check that it works. Whoops. Need to turn the video back on. All right, it's good. I missed it that time. It didn't go up. Oh, there we go. Perfect. And the last thing that we are going to do is that we have it going so that if we hit it, it goes back into the loop, but we also need to have it so that if we miss it, it A, disappears, and B, continues on that loop. So I'm going to clean this up one last time. I might need to go out a little bit. And I'm going to turn my video off. So So when I receive launch, one more time. We have our if touching edge. So if it is touching the edge, then we want it to hide. So get rid of it so we can't see it. We want it to wait time. And then we just want it to go back to start, so it'll go back to picking that random that random fruit, and this needs to be wrapped in a forever loop. And the last thing we want to do is we want it to wait 1 second, because if we just had it if touching edge, it would, when it launched, it would just keep on restarting because it is touching the launch, or it is touching the edge when it launches. So we need to wait that 1 second to just let it get out of that space. So this should work pretty well here. Let's try this out. Whoa, that was quick. Keep on forgetting to turn on that camera there. Oh, and we have a problem here with the score. Oh, that's quick. Let's try. Yeah, see, it keeps on going up. All right, so let's see what we can do here. We want to, if it is greater than, we want to change score by 1. Let's try waiting 2 seconds. Actually, before anything, we need to, when the green flag is clicked, let's put this in the variables. We need to set our score back to 0. Okay, let's try this. And now let's try not hitting anything. There we go, perfect. Okay, so let's see what we have here. We have picked the random fruit. We have launched it from all of those random places. We have added 1 to the score, and we have cut the fruit if it is swiped. We'll take care of the bomb in a bit. And we have hidden it on the edge. Very good. So we have pretty much completed our sprites for this first one right here. The only thing that we need to do, I'm going to take care of this beforehand, even though it doesn't really fit, is that if the bomb is hit, it is going to broadcast a game over message. So let's do that now. So when I receive game over, we just want to stop everything in this sprite. Stop. Perfect. Okay, so we have taken care of this sprite right here. Okay, and something that we need to do, coming back here after testing this out with a bit more sprites, is that look right here, we have the if video motion on the sprite is greater than 30. What we also need to do is make sure that the launch pick is also 1 when we do that, or else I'm honestly not exactly sure why this happens, but something happens with the score and the bombs. It just doesn't work very well if we don't have both of those. So we just have to do it, and if you don't totally understand why, don't worry, because I don't totally understand why either. There we go. So I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to do video motion on this sprite, and our launch pick. That doesn't duplicate everything. Needs to equal number 1. So we want both of these things for all of our stuff here. So you go over here and duplicate that. You need to right click on the and there. If you duplicate or if you right click on anything else, it will just highlight that. It could be kind of tricky, and just throw that out. And right there. So now that should work. Okay, so now that we have our sprite finished here, we are going to make a couple different copies, and we're going to change things along the way. So I have my apple one, I'm going to have another apple. I'm going to duplicate that. We just need to go here, and we need to change this launch pick to number 2. Number 2. And number 2. I'm going to make another copy of that. And I'm going to go into here, and this is going to be launch pick 3, 3, 3. But we are going to change this to, actually, let's get the costume. We're going to go to costume, and we don't need these, so I'm going to do that. We're going to go to things, and we're going to get our next fruit, which alphabetically should be bananas. Bananas, there we go. I'm going to click that, and I'm just going to delete that. And just like I did before, I'm going to make a copy of this, convert it to bitmap, and just pull that out right there. And let's change this to Bananas. Thank you for that song to teach me how to spell that. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. And I am just going to make a copy of this now. The same thing, and we just need to change our launch pick to 4, 4, and 4. Copy this, and let's get our next costume, which should be, I think, the orange. There we go. There's several oranges to choose from. There's also the orange animation, or you could do that muffin there. Be a breakfast ninja. Would be fun. Okay, and just like before, bitmap. Oops. Pull that apart. Delete these just to make it a bit cleaner. And that's obviously not banana, so we are going to change it to orange. Duplicate, and change the launch pick on it. We change 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we need to change launch pick on this one too. And this one will be 6. 6. There. No, 664. And it's a good idea, this, especially if you have an older computer, to turn the video off when you're not using it, because it's, see, this is getting a little, takes up a lot of memory on it, and it can definitely push your computer to the breaking point. Or not to the breaking point, but it could push it hard. And we're going to duplicate this one more time, and we're going to get ourselves a watermelon. And there's the proper animation too. What I did in my other one is that I copied 2 of these and then inverted it, so it had a bit more of a professional look to it. I'm just going to do this right here and make it simpler and quicker. Do it the same way we did the other ones. And back to scripts. 7, 7, and 7. And this will be watermelon. Duplicate. And 8. And there's one other thing that I forgot to change there, is that we have to change the costumes too. So all these are going to be on switching the costume to apple, and that's obviously not going to work for the watermelon. So we just need to go back, change that to watermelon A, and change that to watermelon A2, A, A2, A2. And there we go. And that should still work for the other apple one. And let's go into our variables. We need to change this 1 to 1. That's not going to work. That's only going to select that apple. So I'm going to change this to 1 to 8. And I also want to get my camera working properly because I've been like turning it on and turning it off, and that's no good. We can't always do that. So we want it, when the green flag is clicked, we want to turn the camera off. And if the space key is pressed, we just want to turn it on. And that needs to be in a forever loop. And perfect. And let's just get it so that when we receive game over, we turn the camera off. Okay, so save that and let's try this out. Make sure I have that. There we go. Boom. Boom. Perfect. Great. Okay, we are getting into the home stretch here. See that? I want to turn that off when that happens. Okay, so now that we have all the fruit, let's just make our bomb. So a lot of the sprites are going to be similar, so I'm just going to duplicate this first. And let's change the costume. And unfortunately for us, Scratch does not provide explosives in their library of sprites, so we have to paint our own. And just make a little black circle, a black circle that is not hollow in the middle. With a little wick. And a little fire on the end of that wick. You could also, if you wanted to, you can get one off Google Image, or it doesn't even have to be a bomb. You could try not to hit a cat or a person that are flying through space. You only want to hit fruit. It really doesn't matter. That is up to you. And so we have this. So let's rename this bomb. Back in there. And let's look at these scripts that we could get rid of. So when the green flag is cooked, we want it to hide. I don't need that there. When I receive launch, switch to watermelon. That's not something that we want. So I'm going to take that out. And so we do want something to happen when all of these things happen, but we don't want to switch costume, wait to wait time, and broadcast start. What we want to happen is we want to say boom, and we want the game to be over. So I'm going to get rid of this one too because we don't need it. We still want the game over to stop everything. And if it's touching the edge, we want it to broadcast another start and another launch. And we're just going to change this to 9. We're going to change this to 9 because we still want it to be launched. So if this condition is met, we just want it to say boom for 1 second and broadcast game over. Okay, boom. Duplicate that and duplicate that. And all we have to do is change the launch pick. So this was 9. This is going to be 10. This is going to be 11. Oops, that wasn't very smart. That's going to be 10, and that's going to be 10. And this is going to be 11. And let's just go back up here and random from 1 to 11. So now we have a 3 out of 11 chance of getting a bomb. And if we get that bomb, it should end the game. So let's see what happens here. I'm not doing very well here, but that's all right. Come on, bomb. This bomb not coming up. There, whoa, it's big. I'm gonna probably make that smaller. Really should be more often than this. I don't know what the. Something's got to be off with here. Must have. Let me take another look at this. Okay, 9, 9. If launch pick equals 9, good. If launch pick is 10, if launch pick is 10. Launch pick is 10. And launch pick equals 11. That should work well. 11, 11. Again, if you want to change kind of how high these go, these might be a little low. You could change that with the initial velocity that you have here. There, oh, that was quick. Boom, and that should stop everything. Great. Okay. And we could make these, I'll just leave them like that, it's fine. And the only thing that we have left to do now is as the game goes on, I just want it to get harder. So we need to make one last variable, that's going to be time. And when the green flag is cooked, we want to set time to 0. And forever, we want to wait 1 second. And after we wait 1 second, we want to change time by 1, and that'll be a nice little timer for us. That's a simple way to make a timer. You could also do this if you want to do it in reverse, just set it to a certain number, and then just instead of changing time by 1, change time by -1. And let's get a bunch of little if statements here. So if time is less than, say, 15, then set wait time. If time is less than 15, then we want to set wait time to 3. Actually, let's have to be 30. And if time is greater than 30, is that going to work? Now we need greater than 29. Greater than 29, and it is less than 60. Less than 60. we want to set the time to 2. And finally, if time is greater than 59 and it is, let's just, greater than 59. Oops, If it is greater than 59, we will set wait time to 1. And you could tinker around with this and make it as difficult as you want or as easy as you want. Just want to show you how to do this, and then it's really up to you. And I am going to clean this up. And it's going to be the same as before. Why does that take so long? Boom. That'll end it. And you can see the time right there. Okay, and finally, let's just get our little person that said the score. So I'm just going to make a new sprite, and you could pick any one you want. Let's have this guy right here. Okay, when the green flag is cooked, we want him to hide. And when we receive game over, I always go to control for when I receive game over. Or when I receive game over, we want him to show up. And we are going to have him say game over. Actually, let's have him say game over for 2 seconds. And then we need our little join. I don't know if we've used these yet, but these little join blocks are helpful. So you got, we're going to put our score. Just join that there. And this allows you just to put in variables, and kind of it makes it much more seamless than other ways of doing it. You got that many points. Okay, so let's just try this out. Actually, before we do anything, I just want to get rid of all my variables so it looks better. Launch pick, we don't want that. We do want score. And let's just put score right up there. And let's, oops. Make sure that goes in there. Oops. Game over. You got 0 points up, and you have space around those. Space and space. Okay. And I'll end the game when I get a bomb here. Boom. And game over. You got 6 points. And one last thing I want to do is there's a little bit of a delay between the camera coming on and when the actual fruits get going, and I don't want that. So I am just going to, after space key is pressed, I am going to wait 1 second there. So that will give us a little bit of time. That should work, right? Yeah, when space key is pressed, we're gonna turn that on. Okay, and that is Fruit Ninja. Okay, that good job finishing this. This is a very complex game, so I hope you had fun with it. You could still add music or sound effects. I added Kung Fu Fighting in mine, but I'm not going to add that in here. I might add it in the one once the video is done, but I don't want any sort of ads being run because of a copyright thing or whatever. So you can do that. You can do sound effects. You can put the sounds from their library in, but that is up to you. And good job finishing this, and I hope you had a good time. Later.